Coventry just fired their long-time manager, Mark Robbins. What does that mean for Haji Wright? That's going to be the big question there. How will they respond? Will they have a new manager bounce? It seems like everybody's pissed that Mark Robbins got fired. He was the longest tenured coach in England outside of one Pep Guardiola. So he's done a lot to get that club back to where they think they deserve to be. I know they had a slow start, but it felt a little unfair.
Can I give you a fun fact?
Sure, give me a fun fact.
All right. So Mark Robbins also happened to coach Viktor Gyökeres, who left the championship to go to Sporting, and now we see him absolutely thriving. And he'll be on the list of every single club in the world looking to bring in a top striker. So
okay,
I just want to throw that out there because Haji Wright played under him, has performed well, has scored goals. Obviously, he was used more as a left winger than a striker, traditional number 9. But it goes back to the point of we want our players who are playing in the championship to move on.
Yeah.
And to move on to places in teams in Europe where you're playing in European competition.
Chuck, I was going to set you up to say that was such a great point you made the other day with the Viktor Gyökeres thing, but you beat me to it. So, Tones, Haji Wright, can he follow in Viktor Gyökeres's footsteps and go to Sporting Club de Portugal or a club like that and then
mind you, we're not saying he's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, he's a different type of player.
We're not saying he's Viktor Gyökeres.
I don't know. Chuck made me sound like he's going to be just like Viktor Gyökeres. That's all.
No, can he have the same? I don't think we're looking at him to be the same player. Can he have the same effect on the game? Is right? And the answer is yeah. He can have the same effect on the game. He's got all the physical tools. He's got confidence. He's scoring goals, and then he's got to go to the right place. Gyökeres has gone to the right place, and likely he's going to go to the right place with his manager and follow him over to Manchester United to be their number 9, right? So he's in a position where he knows that he can succeed because he's playing in a style that he clearly understands. I think in a lot of ways we've kind of how do I say this with Haji Wright? We've kind of overlooked him in a lot of ways. Because there's always been this other guy in front of him, whether it's been Sargent or Pepe, and I know he plays on the left-hand side at Coventry, but we looked at him as a forward because what we saw in 2022 was he was a striker, right, under Greg Berhalter. And then we went away from him for a couple of years, but the guys just kept plugging along. And you if you're Coventry, right, you really couldn't ask anything more of Haji Wright and what he's doing. Like, he's doing everything you could possibly want him to do, and we can only hope that he improves. This conversation we had the last show with Charlie about kind of getting to the next level, playing at the next, pushing yourself all the time. And I know players want to do it all the time. Sometimes the opportunities just don't come. Is he a guy that can make the next jump? I think so. You mentioned Anthony Robinson before. Like Anthony Robinson, I'd love to see him. Like, there's one more step for Anthony Robinson.
100%.
There's one more step for him. It's to get to whatever the best club is that he can get to, and he's going to play in Champions League, right? Yep. Like, there's nothing really else for him to do. He's pushed himself as far as he can go. And if he stays there, he will be equally as good a player, right? Remember, he was almost at Milan, right? It got messed up by a physical, right? There was a faulty heart examination that went on. Like, he was in Milan ready to do this. And so it's not, and we've heard rumors of Liverpool. We've heard rumors over the years of Manchester United.
City.
So yeah, so that's like the next step for him. But yeah, with regards to Haji Wright, I think in a lot of ways, there's always been like another guy in front of him every camp, but he's always that other guy, right? And you got to give him credit for the work that he's done. I'd love to see him continue his form right now and then maybe get to that next step.
Yeah, 4 goals and 15 caps for the U.S. men's national team, Haji Wright. I feel like we're talking about him as though he's 22 or 23. The guy's 26. So it feels like if he's going to make that move, it's going to have to be very soon, Chuck, right? I mean, once
like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
2026 World Cup, he'll be 28. When I got into the World Cup, I was 29. And when I was getting shopped in the transfer window after that, people were like, wow, a 29-year-old center back. What I heard a lot was, we'll just take a chance on a 20-year-old in our academy. We're not going to pay to bring you in.
You don't have sell-on value. That's
the
problem. And if you had a European passport, then it's a little bit more justifiable to have you as a squad player as opposed to a foreigner on your roster. So, yeah, I mean, he's already in England. I think he's proving himself that he has the mentality and the quality to succeed in Europe. So I think given his stat line, he'd be able to move to a bigger club who's competing in Europe. That's my point. Maybe it's not you're not playing in the Premier, you're playing in La Liga or Serie A, but there are other avenues to playing in the Europa League or the Champions League.
So would you suggest, let's say Gyökeres he's probably going to get bought at some point, right? He's 26 as well, and he's absolutely killing it. Coming off a hat trick against Man City, you're going to generate a lot of interest. Would you recommend to Haji Wright, if you were consulting for him to go to a club like Sporting, just because not only will they be competing to win their domestic title, but they'll also be playing against big clubs in Europe? Is that a lateral move, or do you expect them to go somewhere?
No, that's a promotion. You go to Sporting? What are you crazy? You're playing in Champions League. Now, the only thing is he's not an established number 9 to go and fill Gyökeres' shoes.
Oh, yeah, they're not like
Sporting's not going to go to Haji Wright but maybe a Ricardo Pepi, for instance, has shown his ability in the Champions League, obviously not getting the looks he should be deserving, because Luke de Jong, even you could see his quality is not what it was last year. Naturally he's going to drop. He had a phenomenal season last year, but he's not getting the reps, and he's a young age. That's somebody who would go, oh, well, he's of the age that we would want to give an opportunity because we could sell him for a larger fee than we've bought him for. So it's an investment, and he has the I guess some of the highlights to warrant some of that belief.
Tones, what do you think with regard to Haji Wright? Like, what would be, just to put a bow on this part of the conversation, what's a club that would be that step up? For me, Ricardo Pepi's there. He just needs to get playing time. He's at a club that, very similar to Sporting, is one of the top 3 clubs in the domestic league, and then is playing and competing against some of the biggest clubs in Europe. So he's there. He just needs to play. But that's not the same for Haji. Where would that club be that feels realistic in some ways?
By the way, the Portuguese league is really difficult to play in, man.
Yes,
I think we underestimate. I think we underestimate. We underestimate that league because we don't see it.
That was from
right?
Your boy Jimmy. He was already questioning the move. Is that a sidewards move? What?
Listen, championships for me. Championships are one of the most competitive leagues in the world. It might not be the most.
I don't care about competitive. I'm not talking about competitive.
By the way, the teams in the championship,
you sharpen the knife when you're competing. No, I mean,
the championship teams would get their ass kicked in Portugal.
USL.
What
do you mean?
Those Portuguese
teams.
No, you
can't. You'd be too good for that. No?
So it's so weird, right? Because if you're talking about Ricardo Pepi, or let's stay on Haji Wright, like he's a little bit older, right? As you said, Jimmy. So, does he fit? Like where does he fit? Like a Bologna that's in, like that would be a massive move for him, like an Italian team. Teams that buy maybe a little older players, like a PSV, the Ajaxes of the world, they don't go and buy older players in general, right? So could he go to a Celtic and play in Champions League, or a Rangers, like clubs like that are playing in Champions League? Is that a step up?
What about a Fiorentina?
Yeah, I mean, Fiorentina this year, actually, they're on a pretty good run right now. Yeah, but that would be a massive step up. But playing in Europe, I think, he'd have to get out of England, I think, Haji Wright, to play in Europe. I think it's the only way he plays in Europe. I don't obviously he's not one of the top 16 players. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He's got to get out of England to do it. But he has a resume now, so you can understand if there's someone willing to take a flyer on him. He's got a goal in the World Cup. He's played for the national team. He's scoring goals. He's improving. So he's improving a little bit later, maybe, than some other players have improved. But, you can't just write guys off like that. So, I don't know. Ricardo Pepi, I think he's maybe a little more attractive because he is a number 9. Everybody's always looking for number 9s. Could he go to France? Could he go to the Championship next? Could he go to Scotland next? Places that are playing in Champions League. Those are God, Sporting would be incredible if he could go there.
Kai 718, he gives a great point. A mid-table Bundesliga club. I think that would be great for Haji
Remember,
Wright.
Pepe was in Germany, right? With was it Augsburg? Is that where he went first?
Do I have that right? Wrong move, though.
Yeah, it was the wrong move. But now the Pepe that was in Germany a couple years ago is not the same Pepe that was there now. That would go there now, right? He's a different player now. So I don't know. It's so hard. I still think no matter where you go, you got to find a place where you're going to play, right? And you got to, especially if you want to make a national team.